Today, I want to talk about the next evolution of AI and technology in general for personal use. Or I should be more specific, individual use. So, personal or business use, but around the individual. So, this is an AI assistant that's customized to you and how you work. So when you show up at work, you have like a virtual personal secretary that knows everything you're supposed to do and helps you with it. And at home, you have a virtual personal secretary who knows everything about you and what what help you need with. And this assistant, so the thinking is by the tech companies that it's going to live across all the devices. So you can access it on your phone, you can access it on your laptop, on your desktop, um, on your smart glasses, on your whatever technology you're using, your smart pin, your smartwatch, they're all going to have this one assistant on it. So when I was at the Consumer Electronics Show last month, Lenovo showed off one of these, and it was called Kira. That's with a Q, and it would work across all the Lenovo devices and on their Motorola phones. It's because it's part of the same ecosystem, so you get the same device everywhere. And the device would the Kira assistant would connect with whatever AI was available. So on the phone, it might talk to the local phone AI. On your laptop, it might talk to Windows Copilot, and so on and so forth. So it would have its own AI functionality, plus it would also integrate with other AIs. But it's like built around you. This is a little similar to what OpenClaw does. That's the new agentic AI platform. Um, you kind of configure it to do what you want it to do, and then it routes to a number of different LLMs. It can use Claude, it can use some local open source thing, depending on what's available or what's more appropriate for a particular task. And there's other companies trying to do something similar. And the big chatbots are also available multi-platform. So Claude is available for the phone and the desktop and the browser, and ChatGPT is available on the phone, on the desktop, and in the browser. So wherever you go, you can have your favorite chatbot with you. And the chatbot becomes the new platform. So when you think of a platform, you think of like the platform in the biggest sense. So, for example, a PC is a platform, and before the PC, we had mainframes, and mainframes were the platform, and software ran on mainframes. And then we went to the PC, and all of a sudden, a lot of software migrated to the PC. You still had software running on the mainframes. One platform doesn't completely destroy the previous one, usually. It's in addition to. So we used to have mainframes, we added PCs and laptops, and those became the hot platform. So after that point, when you talked about, I want to install some software, you probably meant on your PC. And if you came to work, you're probably doing most of the work on the PC. Some of it might go back to a mainframe, and for some companies, it was all done in mainframe, and you just had a dumb terminal with no local intelligence at all, like maybe like a banking kind of application that had like really high security requirements. But for the most part, everybody worked on PCs, and at home, everybody had a PC. And then we had phones, and with a phone, applications moved to the phone. You still had the PC, you still had mainframes, but now you also had the phone. And the phone became the new battleground for applications. And companies still rolled out old-fashioned software. You can still buy downloadable software. I have some on my computer that I bought and installed because it's old and I still use it. And they still keep coming out with the updates. But for the hot new areas of software, it's mobile apps. And you've got the Android App Store and you've got the Apple App Store, the iOS App Store. And those are the hot platform. Cloud computing is also another platform, and a lot of applications move to the cloud. When you go to Gmail, when you go to Dropbox, when you go to almost anything, Netflix, I mean, like literally anything. If you'll probably access them on their website, and they kind of live in the cloud. So the browser is the platform, and that came between the PC and the mobile. So in between them, you had the browser-based applications, and you had all the Facebook games, and you had all the software that runs in a browser, Canva. Uh, why am I drawing a blank on software? All the Google software, Office 365 software, Salesforce software. A lot of enterprise software runs in the browser, on a website, in the cloud. So all the SaaS software is generally runs in a browser, in the cloud. And again, it did not replace previous types of software. People still download Photoshop to the desktop. But now you also have a whole bunch of online browser-based image editing tools. So the same way that we have these generations of software platforms, we are now starting to see the emergence of the AI platform. And this is software that runs inside the AI. We don't have a lot of examples of this. It's mostly just tools and skills, nothing like really formal yet, but we're starting to see apps show up in AIs as I think at first there were plugins. They're called different things by the different AI vendors, and eventually it's all going to shake out. We're just going to call them one thing, like apps or skills, whatever it's going to be, or tools. And they're going to be provided by third parties, and they're going to live within the AI agent, and you're going to access them within the AI agent, similar to how when you go online, you access all the websites via your browser. When you go on the phone, you access all these apps via the phone, and the phone becomes the interface. So on a website, you'll use the mouse and you'll click on links. That's your interface. And on the phone, you've got the touch screen, and you have the scrolling and the pinching and zooming. That's your interface. And with AIs, right now the interface is text chat, where you type questions and you get answers. But that interface is going to be evolving quickly. So they've already added voice to some limited degree. They're going to be adding other functionality as well. I think Claude is already in the process of adding functionality to the apps that live within the Claude AI system. And that field is going to be evolving very, very quickly. I mean, these things are changing their names multiple times. We still haven't figured out the form factor. So we're in the early stage of evolution of these things. So what does that mean for us individual users? It means that this is going to be the place where if we want to build a software company, that might be a place where we do it. So if you're kicking yourself that you didn't create Angry Birds or whatever app you had an idea to create and you didn't and you missed the opportunity, this is that going to be that next wave of opportunity. And this is a good time to start thinking about it. If you had an app that could live within the AI assistant, what app would you want? What would you want it to do? And I think it's too early to think about the specifics of how you'd build it, but you might want to start thinking about the functionality, and how you would want to interact with it. And so that's going to be, I think, something that's going to come within the next couple of years, if not sooner. And building these things is going to become very, very easy. So with every new generation of platforms, developing for that platform is generally become easier and easier. So developing for the mainframe, very specialized set of skills. I used to write mainframe software back in the old days because I'm really old, and very, very specialized skill set. Then I wrote software for PCs and just pre-internet days. Yeah, like I said, I'm old. And that was a different kettle of fish software-wise, but it was quite a bit easier. You know, you kind of got to interact with the app as you were writing it. It was the software is much more contained and usually more user-friendly, and there were, you know, you could carry the computer around with you as you worked on it. So lots of benefits in terms of like usability of development. And then, of course, on the websites, writing website applications is ridiculously easy these days. You can put up a website with WordPress or one of the other hosting, any hosting company in minutes, and have kind of default standard functionality out of the box. And if you want to do something clever or special, there's plugins you can add. And then at a certain point, you have to start developing, and then it gets complicated. When you build complicated apps, it gets complicated. And then the mobile space, there are mobile app development tools out there. You can convert a website into a mobile app. There's ways to make a quick and easy mobile app. There's mobile app builders, and they've been around for a while. But if you want to make a complicated one, yeah, that takes a little bit of skill. So with AI agents, again, building a complicated one will take some skill. Building a simple one is probably going to be very, very easy. And if you have an idea, you can start with a simple one and then grow and improve as you get an audience for it. So yes, I think that's coming. I think the potential here is going to be huge, both for enterprise applications and for personal applications. And nobody knows what it's going to look like yet. So people who get into it early will actually help build that future and help determine what all this stuff is going to look like. For individual users, what this means is that the applications we use are all going to become much more personal, much more customized. They will have, so the same way that an app on your phone can get access to certain things about you without actually knowing those things, the apps on an AI can get access to things about you without necessarily knowing those things either. So, for example, you can unlock a phone with your thumbprint and, you know, get this kind of security built in. And an app that's on the phone gets the benefit of that security without actually having to have a copy of your thumbprint. But it can act as if it does. So it can have security functionality built in and leverage the stuff that's in a phone. Or for example, an app could have you upload a picture and leverage the camera that's in the phone without having to build its own photo app. It can just use the native telephone functionality to provide it for you. It doesn't have to know what your phone looks like, how it works, what resolution it is. It doesn't have to know any of that stuff in order to benefit from it. So there's a possibility that the AI apps that live within the AI ecosystem can leverage some of the functionality of the native AI that they're working with. So the native AI can handle the personal interface stuff. It knows what language we talk, for example. So it'll ask us questions in our preferred language. The app doesn't need to be multilingual. The AI agent is multilingual and can take care of everything. Or for example, um, the AI knows what foods we like to eat, where we live, what our favorite restaurants are, and the AI app can leverage that knowledge via the AI agent in order to recommend stuff to your or whatever. There's obviously huge privacy concerns, just as there are with the phone. Like how much data will you going to be sharing? Do you want to share your location? Do you want to give access to your camera? All that stuff that you give permissions for. We're going to have probably going to have a similar system set up with the AIs. How much access do you want to give to third-party apps to information about you? So we're going to have that. That's going to be very interesting. It's going to be obviously very useful to the individual to have a computer that understands you. So instead of us having to adjust to our computers will adjust to us. Instead of us having to adapt to the world we live in, the world will adapt to us. It's kind of like a magical superpower kind of thing. So I think that is very cool. I can definitely see the productivity benefits of it. A lot of the small niggly stuff that I do that's just annoying, my AI could take care of it for me by interacting with all these third-party apps and tools. The challenge for the developer of these things is that they lose the connection to their user. So, for example, when you have an app on a phone, the phone keeps some of the information about you, not the app, right? So kind of like when you use Google Login to log into a site, the site leverages Google's authentication mechanisms, but it doesn't necessarily know them. Or if you have a channel on YouTube, right? So you have all these subscribers from YouTube, but you don't really know who they are personally. You don't have their email addresses. You can't connect to them outside of YouTube. YouTube owns that relationship. And when you have apps on the phone, to a big degree, the phone owns that relationship, not the app as much as it did maybe in a previous generation of the platform. With the AI, that's going to be magnified to a big degree because that relationship with the user is going to be owned by the AI, not necessarily by the tools that the AIs use. The individual user might not even know what tools the AI is using. So, for example, I might say, do this calculation for me. And the AI uses a calculator because AIs are bad at math. So it uses a calculator. I don't know what calculator it's using. It could be using, there's a million different calculators out there it can use. They all normally give the same answers. Or, for example, I might want directions to a particular business. Does it use Google Maps? Does it use some other map? If the directions are accurate, do I really care? If I want to order a ticket on an airline flight, do I care if it uses Travelocity or some other site to book the ticket, or if it goes directly to the airline company? I might not care about that as long as it just works, then I don't have to worry about it. If it's looking for an apartment for me, do I care that it's using apartments.com or Zillow.com or whatever other apartment hunting platforms are there out there? I probably wouldn't care. If I'm hunting for a house, same thing. I might not care what platform it's using. So that's going to hurt a lot of brands because it's going to destroy their relationship with the customer. There's a lot of stuff that I buy that I don't care where it's from. I want to order, I want some Diet Cokes delivered to my house tomorrow because I'm desperate for caffeine. Do I really care what store the Diet Cokes come from? Do I really care what delivery service is used to deliver them to me? As long as the price is okay and the Cokes come on time, I'm probably okay with it. So it's this intermediating the delivery app, the supermarket. So that's gonna mean a lot of disruption in a lot of industries. And companies are already a lot of companies are worrying about it. I did a story on agentic payments, and I talked to a lot of experts and companies rolling out using AI to buy things, and that was their number one concern, that this destroys the relationship between a brand and their customer. And sometimes that relationship is valuable to both sides, but sometimes that relationship is only valuable to the company and the customer really doesn't care. And the customer doesn't care if they just use an AI for it because a Diet Coke's a Diet Coke. Like, who cares where it comes from, right? So we're going to see a lot of interesting things happening in the business world as a result of this. But a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things are going to change. Yeah. So very exciting time. Definitely something to stay abreast of if you work in any of these related fields, like software development or finance or retail. Um, all that stuff is happening, and that's going to impact those sectors. And if you're an end user, you're going to have to pick a side. So when phones started coming out, we had the BlackBerry, we had other phones, and we had the Apple and Android, and we picked one or the other. And switching from Android to Apple or back again is hard. I have made that switch. I started out on iPhones, and I made the switch to a Samsung phone because I was covering virtual reality, and Samsung had the Gear VR headset, and Apple had nothing. And Android had Google Cardboard, and Apple had nothing. So I migrated to the Android ecosystem. And that was quite a few years ago. So it wasn't as hard as would have been today. So today, I would have had to repurchase all my apps, right? Because everything is in one ecosystem versus another. And if you're on iOS, you're probably using Apple Messages and Apple's email and Apple's documents and all the Apple software, right? Whereas if you're on Android, you're slightly more likely to be using Gmail and Google Calendar and Google Docs for all your things, and Google Maps and everything else. And so all of that is really tightly integrated in the Android ecosystem, which makes it easy and convenient. It also makes it really difficult to switch. And this is one reason why so much money is being invested in AI right now, because there's only going to be like 2 or 3 winners at the end, and they're going to rule the next generation of tech platforms. And it is completely up in the air right now. We don't know who it's going to be. Is it going to be Google with Google Gemini? Google Gemini is already on your phone. They already have the devices. Android is the majority of phones out in use today. They already have the browser. They own the browser. I mean, everybody uses Google Chrome. A lot of people use Gmail and Google Calendar. Everybody uses Google Maps. A lot of people are already in the Google ecosystem. And if they add an AI assistant on top of that, that will really like cement people in there. Or you might have somebody coming out of left field, like Apple did. Like, who would have thought that Apple was going to go into the phone business, right? I mean, that was weird, but they did, and it worked out great for them. So that could happen. Somebody like Microsoft or Apple, if they get their act in gear, could come out with an AI assistant that works on all the phones, and that might be it. It could be somebody out of left field. It could be somebody like who you're totally like missing. Like Google was created by a couple of guys in college, right, in a dorm room. Facebook, was famously started by a bunch of college kids, right? These platforms are huge. They're giant companies, they're world-leading companies, and they came out of nowhere. Amazon was started by some middle-aged guy who wanted to start an online bookstore, right? And now it's this giant company. So, I mean, Apple started in somebody's garage. So a lot of these disruptive companies just came out of nowhere. And every time you have a platform shift, there's another opportunity. So for a while, we had Netscape owning the browser. They eventually lost the browser. But at the beginning of the dot-com era, Netscape was the browser and came out of nowhere. And it left just as quickly and mysteriously. We had several generations of phone companies coming and going, right? So this is an opportunity for ChatGPT or Claude to become the next big thing that works on all the platforms and, kind of like gobbles everything up. OpenAI is working on their own devices. So that might happen. Or Google might be the one. They're behind right now in usability, but the fact that everybody still goes to Google as their first site where they start anything and the AI is right there means that they have an instant built-in user base of people interacting with the AI agent. So they've got a huge, huge head start. Plus, of course, the Android ecosystem. They don't really have a big role on the desktop aside from Chromebooks. Um, and they don't really have a role in the old mainframe world, but they own the mobile space and they own the browser. So, and Google Cloud Platform is a huge cloud computing platform. So this is for all those cloud apps. Google is one of the big three. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are the big three hyperscalers that basically run all the web applications. So Google's very well positioned here. Amazon doesn't really have a play in the space. Apple doesn't really have a play in the space. Microsoft is partnering with OpenAI, and they have Microsoft Copilot on the desktop, but it hasn't been getting any traction. And Microsoft completely lost the mobile race. I mean, their Windows Phone, it just zero. Nobody's using it. It doesn't. I don't think it exists anymore. Um, and they were late to the cloud space, but they eventually launched Azure and are now like a big three. And they eventually moved Windows into Office 3, moved Office into Office 365. And so it's available as a web application online. But it's also still a regular app, piece of software that you can run on your computer. So they're sitting in multiple spaces, and they have servers, enterprise servers as well. So they're also in the kind of like the mainframe era. So they're occupying several of these technology platforms, but not mobile. They missed that one, and the reason they're investing so much in OpenAI, plus working with competitors as well, is because they're looking for an entry point into the next the next platform, which is going to be AI. And they don't have an obvious entry point to it. I mean, yes, they've got Microsoft Copilot, but a lot of people are interacting with AIs on their phone. And Microsoft is kind of locked out of that. Because you can get ChatGPT for your phone, because I have the ChatGPT app. I don't know if you can get Copilot for your phone, and why would you want to? I mean, nobody's using it anyway. So yeah. So it's going to be hard for them to pull off. But yeah, ChatGPT definitely wants to be cross platform, in the sense that they're on all the devices, and so does Claude. I think that the likelier thing is that one of the other big platform players will just buy them up and have their own kind of version of it. But that doesn't always work. I mean, Microsoft tried to buy its way into the phone space, and that didn't work for them. So it's not always that easy. Uh, yeah. So if it's too early for us to have to pick a platform, and earlier on, switching is going to be easier because we're going to have less investment in it. But the more we go on, the harder switching is going to be. So, like with iPhones and Androids, once you're on one side or the other, it gets harder and harder to switch every year. And so the same thing's going to happen with AI. So just keep an eye out for that. All right. Um, Meanwhile, I'm wondering what the new medium is going to be with AI. So with cloud, we had a whole bunch of new um, content platforms. So we had blogs, we had podcasts, we had YouTube channels and TikTok and all the social media channels. These are all new mediums, this ways to communicate with people and to share content, right? And before that, it was just print. Like you had books, you had magazines, you had newsletters, print newsletters, right? And then afterwards, you had this explosion of stuff on the web. With the phones, you have some content that works well on phones, like ebooks. I read all my ebooks on the phone. Um, and some mediums kind of overlap. So you can get YouTube on both, and you can get podcasts on both. With AI, we're probably going to see some new mediums coming along, and nobody knows what those are going to be yet. So that's going to be interesting. So some of it's going to be AI-ified old mediums. So we might have like AI generated books or AI generated videos, that kind of thing. Um, but that's not as interesting, I think, as a whole new medium that's enabled by AI. Something like virtual world creation that might live inside kind of an extended reality interface of some kind. That will require AI to power it. That's not something that we can do with current technology. But other than that, I don't know what's going to come. And I'm very interested in it as a content creator. I want to know what the new medium is going to be so I can start planning ahead for my job. And I'm sure a lot of people are in the same situation. They're too young to retire. They're curious. They want to learn things. They want to stay on top of the trends. But they don't want to like get stuck in dead end stuff either. You don't want to like invest too much time and effort into something that's not going to go anywhere because who's got the time, right? Anyway, so that's what I'm keeping an eye on and what I'm sharing with you guys on this channel. So if you like that kind of thing, you can subscribe. I'll try to do more of it. And hopefully I'll get better at it as time goes on. And as the weather improves, I'm going to start doing these things outside while walking my cat. And that is a promise. All right. Bye, guys. See you all next time.